Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this information meeting on alternative procedures to aircraft departures during the rehabilitation of the Northern Runway. My name is Steve Flanagan, and I've been mandated by Aéroports de Montréal to moderate this meeting, which will unfold in two parts. First, a short presentation on the work that will be starting next week, followed by information on the alternative procedures. Then the presentation will be followed by a question period. Please allow me to introduce you Mr. Carl Brochu, Senior Director, Operations, Security and Safety for Aéroports de Montréal. Mr. Etienne Tremblay, Air Traffic Controller for Nav Canada. And Jonathan Bagg, Director, Stakeholders Relation at Nav Canada. To facilitate this meeting, your microphone and cameras will remain closed. You will have the possibility to use the dialog box when the time comes to ask questions. We have scheduled a maximum of 45 minutes for the meeting. This meeting is recorded. As you can see on the screen, Aéroports de Montréal is the airport authority for the Greater Montreal area. It is responsible for the management and operation of the Montreal-Trudeau International Airport, as well as the International Aerocity of Mirabel. So it's time now to let the microphone to Mr. Carl Brochu, d'Aéroports de Montréal.
So good evening. So we're here tonight to give you a brief presentation on the work that will be done on the North Runway starting next week. So just for starting, I will just give you a brief overview of the different organizations that do have a responsibility over soundscape management at Montreal-Trudeau Airport. So first of all, Transport Canada, which is the regulatory body responsible for enforcing air traffic noise control, abatement regulations and procedures, and when necessary to do the law enforcement portion of the soundscape management. There's, of course, Aéroports de Montréal, which is the airport authority that has the responsibility to develop plans to basically put in place a soundscape management committee, and of course, we handle the complaints regarding the noise. There's also our partner, Nav Canada, which is the air navigation services provider, and I will let them give a better or a more detailed explanation in a few minutes. And there are also of course, the air carriers, the airlines, which of course fly the aircrafts and do have to follow the procedures that we have at Montreal-Trudeau for a takeoff and landing. As a reminder, and you can see on the picture on your right, basically we have two main runways, the North Runway and the South Runway. And they are used, the direction of their use is dedicated or directed by weather conditions, and mainly the wind direction, of course, because aircraft will land and take off facing wind. So that's one thing. And again, the wind mostly is coming from the west-southwest. So 70% of operations at Montreal-Trudeau means will be the aircrafts will be landing and taking off facing southwest. So basically, if you're taking off, you will be taking off over Lac Saint-Louis. That means that 30% is the runways will be used going toward the more toward the city. So that's only 30% of the total operations yearly. Jets that will take off will climb until 3,000 feet, and then they will turn toward their destination. So the 3,000 feet is something that is standard and doesn't change. However, This altitude of 3,000 feet will not be reached always at the same place. Of course, it depends on, again, the weather, type of aircraft, the weight of the aircraft, and different other characteristics. So why do we have to do some work on the runways? Basically, the main reason, of course, is safety and the work that we're planning to do. And why do we work? It's a and it's the rehabilitation of the North Runway. And we do that for so at one point those major rehabilitation are needed for safety because they are like
So we're sorry. I think we have a technical problem right now with the sound. So our technician is looking at it. And I think we will wait 1 or 2 minutes, the time to fix it. So I'm waiting as you are to for the sound.
I believe I'm back. Am I back? Do you hear me correct?
Yeah, I think it's good, Kyle. Maybe you should, well, return back, 1 slide back. Yeah, and start from there.
Okay, so let me know if the sound is broken. We did have an issue, a technical issue, so I guess we lost the link. So I'm gonna I'm gonna redo that slide. So no problem at all. Okay, so just again as a reminder, so runway assignment. Like I said, you can have a look on the picture and you see that we have 2 main runways: the North Runway and the South Runway, and the direction of the use on each runway will be dictated by weather condition and mainly by the wind. So I believe that you know that aircrafts will land and take off facing the wind. So in Montreal, the way we are located, 70% of the time the wind is coming from the west. So that means that 70% of the time aircrafts will land and take off facing Lac Saint-Louis. That means that at the other end, 30% of the time, aircrafts will take off and land, going more on the eastern and basically taking off toward the city. After takeoff, jets must climb in the runway heading until they reach an altitude of 3,000 feet. And after that, they can turn to their destination. That 3,000 feet will not be reached exactly at the same point because it depends on the weather, the type of aircraft, the weight of aircraft, and these type of conditions. So this is just a reminder. So work on the runways, and again, the work that will start next week is work on the North Runway. It's the phase 3 of 4 phases. And why do we do that work? Basically, we do the work because we need it for safety reason. And again, the runways must be in mint or perfect condition at all time. And of course, the major rehabilitation work is needed to basically expand the life of the infrastructure and Every time we do major work, it has a certain cycle of time. And basically, when we do major work, usually we're good for about 20 years, and we don't have to do that type of work. That doesn't mean that we will not have to work on the runways. We do very often maintenance work, but the more heavy work is good for many years. So a little bit more details. So again, if you look at the picture, at the green portions at the ends, both ends of the runway, you'll see that the green portions, it's major work that is or has been completed. So that's not where we're going to be working the upcoming weeks and months. Basically, we'll be working on the yellow portion, more in the middle section of the runway. And this work will start March 14 until the end of June, so around the third week of June. So during that time, North runway will be completely closed, and we will be only using the South runway. During the summer, so after the around the end of June, both runways will be in operations for the rest of the summer until October, and from October 11 to November 7, we will then do the second portion of this year's work for, as you can see, for about a month. But during these two periods, like I said, the North runway must be completely closed. But again, during the peak of the summer, both runways will be used. So in order to keep the operations safe and basically meet the demand, alternative flight paths for departures will be used mainly by small jets and propeller aircraft when the North runway is closed. And I will let my colleagues from Nav Canada give you a detailed explanation of that in a minute or two. So just before that, a reminder of the type of aircrafts that are being used or that are using the facilities in Montreal Trudeau. So basically, we can categorize them in three types: the heavy jets, small jets, and propeller aircrafts. Basically, the heavy jets is, as you can see, such as Airbus A330, Boeing 777. Those type of jets are the one that will do longer distance, 2 aisles when you're sitting in them, and basically there are the type of flights that go such as transatlantic. The small jets are, of course, smaller jets. When you're sitting in one of those, it's 1 aisle type of aircraft, such as the CRJ, Boeing 737, and the Airbus A220, the jet that is being built in Montreal Mirabel. And finally, there are the propeller aircraft, such as the Dash 8, which is an aircraft used for commercial flights, but there are also other types of propeller aircraft. If you want more information regarding the types of aircraft, you can use the link, Yule Aircraft Spotting Guide that we have on our website. So that being said, I will pass the mic to Jonathan Bagg that will give you the mandate of Nav Canada.
Thanks. So a few words about Nav Canada. Nav Canada is the private not-for-profit company that's responsible for air navigation services in Canada. We manage one of the largest airspaces in the world at 18 million square kilometers. That actually places the second largest air navigation or airspace in the world. That's handled by a single air navigation service provider. We have more than 100 staff sites across the country. That includes the tower here at Montreal Trudeau, as well as a area control center nearby in Dorval. We have more than 4,000 employees across the country and 45,000 customers. And when I say customers, I'm referring to the airlines, private pilots, business aircraft that use Nav Canada services to fly safely in our airspace. Fundamentally, safety is why we exist, and it's applied to all our projects, and that includes how we are supporting this project operationally due to a runway closure, how we're going to manage that. Safety is our first focus, as always. So with that, I'd like to pass it to Etienne to my right to give you a little more specifics on what the runway closure means for operations.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Etienne Tremblay, and I'm an air traffic controller. I work for Nav Canada. During the spring this year and next year, the north runway will be completely closed, as Carl explained. Okay, so the runway being completely closed, all operations will have to be concentrated on the south runway, and this means that at times during peak hours, so in the morning, around lunchtime, and for a more extended period in the evening, we're going to have capacity issues. To address those capacity issues and to really try to keep the peak periods as short as possible, or to keep them in the usual hours for those peak periods, we're going to use we're going to turn jet aircraft on one of the existing headings that we use when we're operating on easterly configuration like this. And this new type of aircraft on this trajectory will help us to release more jet aircraft and so keep the peak hour contained. Here is a picture of the current situation. So the current headings that are used when we are departing towards the east. So departing from the south runway on the runway heading, the black arrow, that's all the jet traffic right now departs on the runway heading. And as Carl explained, those jets will wait until they reach 3,000 feet before proceeding on course or going towards destination. Turboprops, or aircraft that have propellers, can use a variety of headings, but will generally use two normalized headings, that we call them. One is heading 025, and the second one is heading 350, which is almost north. There's a sharp turn to the left after departure. On the right side of that slide, you see the actual tracks. Like this is this shows the actual tracks flown by flights during a single day. It is very clear that the runway heading spreads as aircraft are going further from the airport. The reason for the spread is simply the winds. Aircraft depart on a heading, so they point literally the nose of the aircraft in a certain direction. So when the aircraft starts flying, they get pushed left or right by the winds. When you see the lines going left and right, this is when they reach 3,000 and start turning towards their destination. Left of this trajectory, we can clearly see the 205 group of tracks and then the 350 group of tracks. You can see that the spread is also quite wide, and the reason is jets, of course, they roll on the runway, so they take off on the runway heading and then they turn as soon as they are able. But that does not happen exactly at the same moment for any given type. So it'll happen roughly between 400 and 1,000 feet, depending on weather and how the company flies their planes. So this is the reason why some tracks start right over the runway and some of them start almost a mile in trail. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you what the difference will be during the work period. So basically the headings are unchanged. Okay, so runway heading is still the preferred heading for jets. Heading 025 will still see a lot of turboprop traffic, but in addition to that turboprop traffic, some jet traffic will also take off on that existing trajectory. Those jets will turn immediately after departure. So they're not gonna wait until 3,000 feet to turn on heading 025. They're gonna turn immediately on heading 025, and then they're gonna wait until 3,000 feet before taking another turn on course. Heading 350 will still remain for turboprop aircraft only, so propeller aircraft. Now for the distribution and the actual number of flights that we could see on each track, this spring we can expect about 200 daily departures, okay, in Montreal. It's a little less than what we had in 2019, but it's still a fair amount of departures. The trajectories are unchanged, right? We're still using the runway heading 025 and heading 350. So the trajectories for turboprop aircraft, for propeller aircraft, are not going to change. Most of them are going to be on heading 350 or heading 025. A few of them will be on the runway heading. 70% of traffic in Montreal are jets. So let's concentrate on those. So 70% of the traffic, they're jets. And in this number, only about a third are going to qualify, if you want, to take a turn, an initial turn. And why I'm saying this is that the controllers are going to use the runway heading as the preferred option. So we're going to do as we always do, as the preferred option. Now, during peak hours, or when there is a need to move a little more aircraft, well, the controllers are going to put some jets on the heading 025. So let's say a third of all jet departures end up on the heading 025. It could be around 50 flights a day. So 50 flights a day. And let's all remember here that this is 30% of the time, because generally this side of the city has arrivals, not departures.
So we will now proceed to the question period. Please type your question in the chat box and I'll read it out. Only question that related to the scope of the presentation will be brought forward. And while you are sending us your question, I invite you to regularly consult WebTrack, a Soundscape reference tool. It locates your address and allows you to view flight paths, aircraft types, altitudes, origin and destination, as well as to submit flight-related complaints. WebTrack displays the noise level at clearly identified noise measuring station. The tool also provides information on work underway, as well as runway closures. Also subscribe to our Soundscape newsletter. To subscribe or for any information request, please write to us at the following email address, info@admtl.com. So first question, why did you not do this work on 2020 or 2021 where there were almost no flights?
That's a very good question. And actually, I wish we could have. And basically, yes, the traffic was lower. It was at its lowest. And that's why we didn't do it, because basically the lack of traffic meant the lack of revenues generated by the traffic, and we didn't have the financial capacity to do the work in 2020 or 2021. So we wish we could have done it, but we couldn't. And again, as soon as we can, and now we can, we want to do the work, and that's why it's planned this spring.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. While TMR will see more flights overhead during the construction period?
I can answer that. TMR is generally not in the departure path. some days when the winds are really pushing the aircraft more south, let's say a day where wind is very, very strong and truly from the north, you will have aircraft that will drift. When I was showing the spread of aircraft, but it's not going to change with the work. The runway, the south runway being the runway that is used for departures generally anyway. So we're talking about, yes, this side of the spread that can go over town Mount Royal, but it's not, there's no change here. We're not turning right in any way differently. Yeah.
Okay, I have another question here. What does sending more planes in HO25 mean for the Bois-Franc area in terms of increase in noise level during the work?
Was Bois-Franc under the new heading?
Bois-Franc, yeah, it's under the green arrow.
Okay.
There.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to make sure from a geographic perspective. Thank you, Étienne. So, I mean, the main difference here, a few points to note. First, these procedures are necessitated because of the runway construction. But it's important to understand is that there's not going to be necessarily more aircraft at the airport. The difference is that we have to operate these aircraft in a safe and efficient manner with just one runway. So the main difference you would see where that green arrow is that previously we did regularly see turboprops turning in that area. In the future, the main difference is that some jets will have to turn in that direction to ensure that we can keep traffic moving safely and efficiently and on time. So that is the key difference, is that it's a track that's used today, as you can see by the graphic here. However, you will have some jets in that area.
Okay, I have another question here. Why do you have to close the runway for such a long period?
I can answer that question. And again, as mentioned previously, it's major rehabilitation work. So that is going to be done in 4 phases. 2 phases are already completed, but it's major rehabilitation. So we're trying to do it as fast as possible, but in a safe manner. And basically, that's what we're doing. So we will be working during the spring between March and June. We will stop working. We will be reopening the 2 runways for the summer between the end of June and October. And again, just close for 1 month to complete the work for 2022. And we'll be able to finalize the work in 2023. But basically, we are doing it as fast as possible, but in a safe manner, because at the end of that, the runway must be well rehabilitated, and we don't want to go back and do some or redo some work construction in the next few years. So basically, that major work is going to be good for 20 years or so. So we need to take the time to do it.
Okay, another question here. I live in Bois-Franc. The plane fly very low. About the plane every 3 minutes in the evening. How will it differ?
So fundamentally, aircraft, so Bois-Franc, again, thank you for the question. Fundamentally, similar to my previous answers, the main difference is this is an area that does see aircraft today. We'll continue to see them tomorrow, but you'll see some jets operating. So aircraft with jet engines operating on this procedure or this heading rather, to ensure that we can keep traffic moving efficiently. That's the difference where typically you mainly see turboprops. Now you'll be able to observe some jets, and that will primarily be during peak traffic hours at the airport. In terms of from an altitude perspective, because you touched on altitude, aircraft will continue to perform the way they do today, and that can be impacted by a number of factors in terms of their climb rate, how quickly they can climb. Has to do with winds, headwinds, what's the direction of the wind, the aircraft's individual performance characteristics. Some aircraft climb better than others, as well as things like temperature. as aircraft climb slower in warm temperature, as an example. So those are all factors that, while impacting the rate of climb, don't defer based on this procedure. The aircraft will continue to operate in the same way they would based on those variables. I hope that helps.
I could add one thing there is the question referred to aircraft, let's say every 3 minutes. One thing that cannot change or that will not happen is having aircraft closer apart. Like the aircrafts are not going to be any closer. They're not going to have any a shorter distance. This is why we need to put jets on different headings so we can respect those distance or time between aircraft.
I receive another question. What is considered peak hours for the airport? And do most airplanes take off towards the city or the lake?
So yeah, I mean, I can start basically, rush hours are typical, what you can expect, and it's incorrect me if I'm wrong. Of course, there's a morning push of traffic as folks get to their destination. It tends to be a midday push in traffic and evening push in traffic. So somewhat mimicking what you would expect of road traffic, except there is a midday push there. So those tend to be the busy hours, and I think actually we do have that on a slide there. And then the other aspect, and it was covered on some of our slides here, is that about 70% of the time, aircraft depart towards the lake. And that's typical because in Canada, winds tend to come from the west, but the other 30% of the time, those winds come from the east, so aircraft take off towards the east. It's very important that aircraft land and take off against the direction of the wind. I hope that helps.
Thank you. We don't have any question anymore. So thank you for your participation. If you have any further questions, you can always send them to us by email at the following address, info@admtl.com. Have a good evening. Thank you.